Good morning. It is Thursday. It is the Bubba Show, and of course, I am Bubba. You know, today I thought now that we bring up topics, and I do encourage you, if you have a topic you would like me to discuss or hear my opinion, or just hear me mouth off on something, please feel free to email me at todd@averagejoeoptions.com, and I'll be happy to talk about anything. But I did want to talk about bubbles, because I do believe that the markets are in a bubble. Now, if you recall, that those of you who've been in with me the longest, we talked about silver being in a bubble a couple of years ago, and of course silver is now at 50% of its value. We talked about the commodity space, the grains, in bubble territory. Well, I'm now telling you, and I'm calling that the market is in a bubble. But what creates a bubble? For those of you old enough to remember, if you go back to 1987, the markets knew there was no bottom and they could never go down again. The markets could only go higher because complacency and greed was taking over, and everybody knew that they could make money. And of course, in October of 1987, crash burst the bubble. Then we move up along into the 90s, and in the 90s, everybody from your caddy at the golf course to somebody you would meet on a train told you that to buy this stock because every stock was going up. The NASDAQ bubble was unbelievable, and it was the new economy versus the old economy. I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but everybody talking that companies that would never make a dime based on their ratios were going up 50 and 60 points a day because this was the new economy. And of course, I will, as much as I don't care for Warren Buffett, I will give him his propers here. He said, I'm still a guy that wants to stick with brick and mortar. But of course, what happened in 1999, finally everything was realized that the markets couldn't keep going higher without earnings and without some support, because we have to have some reasons. And although technically the markets are breaking out, everybody figured out, and all of a sudden, boom, down came the markets, and another bubble had bursted. And then we came back into the housing market, and where housing was free and cheap and money was flowing. And of course, we know the story, the markets crashed. Well, here we are again in 2013. Okay, what is the common thread? Greed? Okay, what is the common thread? Free money? What is the common thread? The Fed is infusing free cash flow here. The markets, we know, can never ever go down again. Now, isn't that should be, for those of you who have listened and those of you who have been around, these should be yellow flashing warning lights going off in your mind right now saying, you know, I could be at a bubble. Now, I'm not telling you to sell and dump and get short the market. I'm saying that you better exercise some caution, because this too is a bubble. And if you've heard me on CNBC, and if you've heard me on Bloomberg, you've heard me say this out loud to everybody, we are in bubble territory. Now, I don't know when the bubble is going to burst. There's no telling when. But I can tell you by the lack of volatility, the lack of conviction, the conviction, the overall complacency in this market tells me that people don't care again. Right now, you have money flowing into the market, new money from the late sources that has no business going into the market up here. Okay? And again, I will repeat, this bubble again will burst. You can see some slight problems already with the outflow of cash going from the stock market to bonds, to the US dollar. You can see the stocks that have been controlling the tape lately, McDonald's, Johnson & Johnson, and Verizon. So take it from me, this bubble too will burst. It should not affect your trading style. You should be aware, but it should affect your long-term portfolio to make sure that you have protection and you have stops for working those. But the common thread through all bubbles is nobody thinks it can ever burst, and that's what we think right now. And that's how you look at bubbles in trading. Remember, the Average Joe Options Call, awesome. Remember, for Thursday, the Bubba Show. Have a great day. We'll talk to you on Friday.